Welcome to Cryptids of the Corn. Each week, Justin and Jay take a look at a topic in the crypto and paranormal world. They focus on the Midwest and Appalachia of the U.S., but sometimes they venture out with everything from well-known monster sightings to one-off cryptids, live person interviews to actual fieldwork sneaking in some science lessons. There's sure to be something you'll enjoy. Please join us this episode of Cryptids of the Corn.
Hello, and welcome back. I am the great and powerful Mr. E.
And I am your tinfoil hat wearing Jay.
And together we make up Cryptids of the Corn podcast. Thank you for joining us on this week's green-thumbed episode.
Oh, green thumb.
Boop, boop, boom. We're going to cover a field closely related to cryptozoology that doesn't get a lot of love. Cryptobotany.
A.K.A. plant monsters.
Kinda.
Okay. That's what it sounds like to me.
No, so this is, I'm going to read you the little blurb for Cryptobotany, and then we're going to do 3 examples of members of this clade.
Clade.
Cryptobotany is a field related to cryptozoology dedicated to the study and search for formerly undescribed plants. Due to their nature, plants are far less common than cryptid animals, as animals are mobile and will not remain in the same spot for long, whilst the plants mostly are immobile and therefore likely to formally be documented and described after only a single encounter. Also, if they eat somebody, if the villager witnesses this and they go back down the mountain, when they come back up with all their pitchforks and flammable liquids, the thing's still in the same spot.
Right.
So they don't make it as long.
It's easy to burn.
It's much easier to wipe out cryptid plants than it is cryptid animals.
Right. You can get a good certain distance at it and shoot a flaming arrow at it and call it a day.
So what do you think about this? Have you heard of any cryptid plants before that we started looking into this episode?
I haven't heard of like any actual ones. I mean, in movies I've seen stuff, where it's like the pit of vines or something that grabs a guy and wraps him up and then he's screaming and he's gone. Stuff like that. But no, not in like the real deal documentation stuff now. I have not.
So like I said, I have 3 cases from 3 different continents, or kind of continents. 2 are from the same, but it's okay. Central and North America is the 2.
That's basically
it's
2 separate.
Almost South America.
Yeah, you're close enough.
The first one we're going to talk about is the Cartier digene.
Okay.
It's one of the this plant actually has a scientific name. It's also known as the devil tree of Madagascar.
Ooh.
Or the man-eating tree.
Okay. In Madagascar, you say? Mm-hmm. All right.
And in 1920, a newspaper illustration depicting a young woman in the grips of the Cartier digene sacrificed to the man-eating plant. So literally, the native Madagascarans would sacrifice people to these plants. I don't really know why, because they can't really do a lot if you take 30 steps away.
Well, right. Well, maybe they just needed to appease the gods.
But this has a lot of documentation with it.
Ooh, okay.
You ready to get right into it?
Oh, yeah.
So the Cartier digene is a pseudotaxonomical name for a a cryptid plant. Crudivorous plant, which is supposedly origins in Madagascar, also known most popularly by the devil tree of Madagascar or the man-eating tree of Madagascar. The man-eating tree was subject to the press attention during the late 19th century and again in the early 20th century. Originating from a report from the New York World of April 26, 1874.
That's not that terribly old.
And I have some articles here. Keep in mind, this was written over 100 years ago, so they're a little hard to read. But the authorship of these fantastical stories would later be attributed to Edmund Spencer. Edmund.
I haven't heard that name before.
It's Edmund.
Edmund. I like it.
I almost said Edward, but it's not Edward.
It's an M.
Edmund.
Okay.
Edmund.
I like that name. I might have to adopt it.
Yeah.
Hey, this episode, I'm not the tinfoil hat wearing Jay. I'm Edmund. I'm Edmund J.
Edmund J.
So what did Edmund say?
He was the first one to report on it.
Okay, gotcha.
So here's like some. I'm just going through it. There's all kinds of people that have kind of talked about this plant over the years, and it keeps popping up. Maxwell Stomers talked about 1834.
Okay, even older.
Yeah. But so I'm going to read the article from 1888.
Okay.
Actually, I'm going to have Jay read it.
Not a problem. Okay, the article from 1888.
Yep.
Okay, so this was in the current issue 8, August of 1888 issue of Current Literature under the title Wonderful Stories, The Man-Eating Tree. Oh, I see why. You wanted me to read this. Okay, in the last number of Graph in Walters magazine published at Karlsruhe.
1888.
Yeah, these are...
The language has completely changed.
Oh my gosh. There's a letter in regard to the newly discovered, and this is the... Chronoida Daginiana.
Daginier.
Daginier? Okay.
The A is always an A at the end.
Gotcha, Daginier. From the discoverer Carl Leach, the eminent botanist, prefaced by some notes from Dr. Omelius Fredlowski, whose deep research in vegetable physiology has had so many important results. Leach's letter, it appears, was originally addressed to Fredlowski, and they seem to have been pursuing a subject of novel and startling interest, which is likely to give remarkable discoveries to science. Dr. Fredlowski says, "My special and only motive for publishing prematurely the history of my friend Leach's half-developed discovery is similar to that which influenced Darwin to bring out his book on the origin of species. His theory was not near developed, but his title to priority in discovery was imperiled by the announcement of Mr. Wallace's research in the Malayan archipelago. Darwin himself, as well as some American botanists, have lately come to so perilously near to the discovery of the problem Leach set himself to investigate. In their studies of Drosera and Sarracenia, that I think it is due to my friend's credit to make some preliminary announcement of the great progress he has already made towards establishing a point of contact of our organic systems with those of the universe at large, through analysis of constitution of some abnormal plants which have always hitherto puzzled the botanists. The point to which Carl Leach, at my suggestion, has been giving his attention latterly is briefly this. Certain plants, such as Drosera, with its outlying species, Sarracenia and some others, departing from the general law, instead of supplying food to the animal, turn the tables, capture them, and are themselves carnivorous. So he's saying instead of feeding the animals,
they're eating the animals.
They're turning around and eating the animals instead. It has often occurred to me in the connection with these insectivorous plants, so abnormal in their constitution that they might have a widely different origin, or at least an origin widely different in point of time from the common orders of plants inhabiting our globe, and that if I could establish the nature of this different origin upon reasonable grounds, I might at the same time afford a reasonable explanation at once of the origin and the primordial variations of life. I'm going to pause right there too. With this being in Madagascar, I think Madagascar is part of an old world.
Yeah, I mean, it has a lot of old world animals in it,
let
alone the plants.
Exactly, like the lemurs. Aren't those old world
primates?
The coelacanth was found right off that coast of Madagascar. It's in
one of the populations.
Yes. Wasn't that where they were first rediscovered?
Yes. No, Africa.
Madagascar?
No, Africa, true. I think the Atlantic side.
Oh, okay. Well, close enough. Mm-hmm. Close enough.
Well, 6,000 miles, but yeah.
Close enough. And also, there's also that theory that Lemuria was Madagascar might be part of the sunken continent Lemuria, if you believe in that stuff, which I think there may be some truth to that.
I already found Atlantis, so I can find Lemuria.
No, that's not Atlantis. That's not Atlantis. You're wrong.
No, the one in the middle of the Atlantic.
Yep, that's wrong. It's not. Oh, that one. Maybe that one's right. Yeah, maybe. But, okay, I digress. Let's go back to the article. When Leach went to Bombay in response to the call extended to him by the medical college of that city, he went full of my ideas upon his vastly important subject, and prepared as I advised him to make special investigations into the habitats of all such abnormal plants, as seen to depart from the characteristic traits of the flora of their respective countries. This I state here because while the theory is by no means far advanced, it was, while in search of facts to... Oh my gosh. It's so weird reading this old article.
It's over 100 years old.
Yeah, it was.
Everybody at home, keep that in mind. This is 1888.
Yes, they had a different... It was, I don't know, different way of
barely the
writing.
same language.
Yes. It was while in search of facts to countenance this theory that Leach discovered the remarkable and terrible Cryordia... how do you say that one again?
Degene.
Of which his letter gives such graphic and forcible description. After quite a long, journey in India, and I changed the word there, Leach was induced to go to Madagascar by Dr. Boahu Daji, which I'm assuming it was named after,
yep.
The liberal-minded, intelligent Parsi physician of Bombay, who indeed supplied the means for the expedition, and made so many thoughtful provisions for my colleague's comfort as to win his gratitude and love. Interesting.
He named a man-eating plant
after him. Yeah, sounds loving. Dr. Daji, it seems, represented to Leach that it was impossible to glean such in a field so carefully worked over by many botanists, and indeed almost exhausted by Hooker. I don't know who Hooker is. That's the first they mentioned him, right?
Big botanist.
Okay. When quite a young man, Dr. Daji had made a voyage to Madagascar, and one of, this is a big Indian name, like from India. Let's try this sentence again. When quite a young man, Dr. Daji made a voyage to Madagascar, and one of Sir Jamsetji Gigi Boy's trading ships.
Good enough to me.
Yep, that's about right. You can get the idea. And had been deeply impressed with the remarkably various and beautiful flora that almost untraveled region. An excellent opportunity offered for going out in one of these Kurtsetji Gigi Boy traders. The ships, I'm guessing.
Gigi Boy traders.
That's really what it is, too. Like, I don't know how other way to pronounce this. Which was to stop at Tamatave on their way to the Cape. So, Leach
of Africa, but oh my gosh.
Yes, is it Africa or India? I don't even know at this point.
The Cape is Africa.
I know,
but
there's
they're
all these
hopping from India to Africa, but they're stopping at Madagascar along the way.
Okay, so many Indian words and names.
Here,
give
me it back.
Oh, I'm still going here. So Leach embarked, attended by Madagascar sailor force servant. Dr. Daji, having hired the fellow, thinking he would be useful to Leach as a guide and interpreter. That was more than 2 years ago. Since then, I have received 3 letters from Leach. 2 by the way of Bombay, 1 by the way of the Cape, and now last week a 4th, which he had the luck to send by an Arabian trader to Zanzibar, whence it reached me via Aden, which I'm guessing is someone else. After writing of many other things, Leach proceeded to say, but I do not know how soon said Ben Yamala may take a notion to sail. I want to tell you about the remarkable tree which I have discovered, and which I have named in honor of my benefactor, Crinoida dagina.
So pause. Crinoidas, I believe, are the Venus flytrap family. So it's not a tree. It's just like what we talked about with dace being called dace, even though it's not a real thing. It's being called a tree because it's very large.
Way to bring it back to fish.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying,
No, it works.
Yeah, all these things that we call other things, like bear cats and stuff like that.
Oh, like pike and perch.
Yeah. It's not the same stuff.
Right.
Even though it's called a tree, he put it in the family, which I believe belongs to Venus flytraps.
I think Chronoidea is. Yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of
that 2 pages of that article to finally get to the tree.
Finally, gosh, yes, finally.
I could have taken that out, but I thought it was funny or not.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty funny.
Because it's like...
Listen to this language.
This is all he had to do in 18... Like, keep in mind, his friend's been gone for 2 years at this point.
Mm-hmm.
He's only gotten 4 letters in 2 years.
Man, and he finally on the 4th one got to the tree. And 2 years later. Want me to keep going?
Yeah, I just wanted to point that out, that this whole thing, the why it's written like this is because this is all he had to do.
I gotcha. Okay. You're right. You had to put a lot of flair into it. Also, like, speaking of the Venus flytrap, I mean, that's still a carnivorous plant around.
We'll get to all the carnivorous plants here at the end.
Okay. So, I mean, like, none of this stuff is, like, crazy far-fetched or unbelievable at all.
Well, read about the tree first before you say crazy, far-fetched, or unbelievable.
Okay. Okay. About 2 weeks after my last letter to you, I went from Tananarivo to a point in the mountains over against Mananzari to visit Christianized chief there who had sent me great many messages. On the way thither, oh my gosh.
Thither.
I'm going to change some of these words to modern words. On the way there, my Madagascar servant, deserted me, saying he did not want to be killed and eaten by the Makotos, a tribe of inhospitable savages
So he's on Madagascar right now.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not, even though he's riding from the Cape Horn of Africa, he's talking about his journey in Madagascar.
And his servant that was his guide there left him in Madagascar.
Madagascar has giant mountain ranges.
Ooh, interesting.
That's why it's still there.
Okay, gotcha.
It's the top of the mountains. The rest of the island, the rest of the landmass is underwater. So it extended both directions. It used to connect to Africa, but it also went further out in the ocean.
Lemuria.
Could be, but Madagascar is literally just
Mountains.
the top of the mountains.
That's awesome. Let's see here. He said that he didn't want to be eaten by those people, the tribe of inhospitable savages whom little was known, but who were supposed to dwell in the mountains further to the south, and to be cannibals. In Teliyamat's place, I hired, when I reached the chieftain's village, a perfect treasure in the shape of a Namka Khafre named Henrik, who had fled Grahamtown on account of some scrape, I don't know what word that is.
A fight.
Yeah, there we go. A tiff, a scuffle. There we go. After many wanderings, found himself in the chief's, let's say in the chief's hut. Henrik, he is with me now, is a fearless and intelligent fellow, full of enterprise and spirit, a good hunter, and a most devoted, untiring, and unquestioning follower. I had taken him with me on several botanizing excursions. When he asked me why I did not go visit the land of Makotos, where I would find a great number of the curious plants, such as he had never seen elsewhere, I answered that they had a reputation of being inhospitable, cannibals, and all that, but he poo-pooed the idea. They were used poo-pooed back then. That's funny.
I know.
It's been along for a long time. Yeah,
some stuff changes every 10 years.
I wasn't ready for that one.
He poo-pooed the idea.
Yeah, he poo-pooed the idea. He had been among them twice, he said, and he had been well received. Ooh, that's kind of cool.
So the first servant left because he's like, no, they're going to eat us. This guy was like, no, I've hung out with them 2 times, and they've both been fine both times.
Oh, and he says here, and he would guarantee me the kind treatment among them. Okay, they got their bad name from being continually at war with the other tribes and from successfully barring their country against all invaders. Oh, kind of like the Sentinelese of modern day. He then gave me an account of the country and particularly of the strange plant I have spoken of above, and so excited my curiosity that I resolved to go there at once. And accordingly, as we were tolerably well equipped, we set out over the mountains with out returning to take leave of the chief, my entertainer. The country of Makotos began about 5 days' journey from the point where we started. And
So Madagascar is very hard to traverse.
is it because the mountain ranges and the forest and
Yeah,
stuff?
and there was a lot of these, what he keeps calling countries, which is like tribal lands. So there's a lot of these individualized tribes.
And there were-
Madagascar's huge.
It's a huge island.
Yeah, the island is, kind of a misnomer. When you think about it, it's kind of like how Australia is an island.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's not quite Australia size, but
No,
it's big. It's
I
big
think
for an
it's
island.
the second biggest island in the world.
Yeah, dwarfs Hawaii. I mean, that's just a famous island.
Dwarfs Japan, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Let's see here. Let's see. It was a 5-day journey from when he started and was a long valley sloping and descending towards the east and inert on 3 sides by rough, inaccessible mountains. On the 4th, separated from the coast by jungles and morass. I don't know what that means. You know that word? What's that word right there?
Pulling a J or Justin.
Yes, exactly. But either way, it was separated from the coast by jungles. The approach to it was most arduous, over the crest of several sharp mountain ridges, frowning with basaltic precipices, basaltic rock. No sooner had we come to the valley, however, than I felt the warm breath of the Indian Ocean and saw its influence in the vegetation, which grew rapidly more and more tropical, majestic, and colossal as we descended. The valley had an average breadth of about 30 miles and was about 175 miles long.
This is one valley.
That's huge. In the course of which it descended over 3,000 feet. The Makotos are a very primitive race, going entirely naked, having only faint vestiges of tribal relations, and no religion beyond that of the awful reverence which they pay to the sacred tree. Ooh, so the tree is like holds a...
Yeah, so these people are supposedly super primitive. Like you said, no clothes. They have no sense of village. They don't work together. It's very, very small family groups. They just pay tribute to this tree.
Interesting. They carry a javelin about 6 feet long. Did I say javelin? I said that right? Okay. I read it and then in my head, I'm like, you said that word wrong. They carry a javelin about 6 feet long with which they conquer the cheetah and do not hesitate to encounter the formidable buffalo.
I don't know what he's referring to as cheetah here. There are no cheetahs in Madagascar.
I wonder if it's just like another big cat.
They don't have cats.
It's spelled like cheetah, but it's spelled like a little differently.
They don't have big cats.
So cheetah. It looks like cheetah actually.
There's a giant predatory. I'm trying to think what it's called. There is a predatory mammal on there, but it wouldn't be very dangerous to people.
Well, the formidable buffalo.
Yeah, buffalo are scary.
Yeah, that ranges the woody slopes and savannas of their country. They are also armed with a short bow and quiver of poison arrows. They dwell entirely in caves hollowed out of the limestone rocks in their hills and are one of the smallest races. The men seldom exceeding 56 inches in height, which is, what is that? 56 inches, 4 feet, 4.5, almost 5 feet tall. Is that about right? 56?
48 is 4.
Right. So, yeah, not even 5 feet tall.
That was exactly 5 feet tall.
56 is? 12. You sure about that?
No, 58 would be.
Yeah. No, 60. 60 is 5 feet tall.
Oh, you're right.
12 times 5. So about 4'8".
Yeah, so it's small.
And there's a lot of smaller races out there that aren't really talked, like old races.
Yeah, it's because
Primitive.
low food intake. Breeds it out to big people.
Or just different phenotypes.
That's the same thing.
Oh, okay. I just like saying that word.
I know.
Their country must be a very productive one, if I may judge from the abundance of animal and vegetable life it contains. At different elevations in the valley during my short journey into it, I noticed droves of antelope. So here's the cheetah. It has a, what's it called? A Latin name? If we want to look that up, Felis jubata. If we ever want to figure out what exactly it is. The Hyrax Manus pentadactyla. Oh, gosh. And many other animals. While the lower forests were full of new species of gigantic pteropi. Do you know what that is? Pteropi. Which at night flew about as if the land belonged to them. The variety and richness of the flora in this valley may be inferred when I tell you that I saw and examined species of all the palms, and that among the plants growing commonly, I found acaciae, numerous, there's just a lot of, he found a lot of different plants. Let's just put it that way. I attribute this richness and variety to several causes. The latitude, half tropical, half temperate, the variety of altitude, and the warm, sultry, vapor-laden winds from the Indian Ocean, which cause vast rainfall. So it's a very rich and diverse island area.
Madagascar is total. There's so many new species discovered in Madagascar every year to this day. Keep in mind, this 1888.
Yeah, 140 years ago.
But so I looked up the wild cat thing. There are forest cats. That's what they're referring to by the cheetah.
Okay.
They have the cheetah-like pattern, but they are a lot smaller.
Oh, okay.
Like 20 pounds.
But for little people like that,
They'd kill it. They could really hurt somebody.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But they're not big cats.
I mean, I don't like when a house cat scratches me, so.
And then the other animal I was thinking of are the fossa, which are a little larger. They're one of the apex predators of the island.
Okay. So yeah, we got a very, I don't know, rich environment that breeds, I don't know, in an area for
biodiversity.
There you go. You know the words better than me.
It's super rich in biodiversity. Madagascar is famous for this. A lot of early explorers in the late 19th, early 20th century during this time made their whole careers on 1 or 2 trips to Madagascar. They're that's where they just discovered vampire ants 2 or 3 years ago there.
Oh, really? Oh gosh, that's awesome.
Blood drinking ants.
That's pretty crazy. What are they drinking the blood of? Just any animal?
No, other ants.
Other ants? Ants have blood? I didn't know that. Okay, cool.
All animals have blood.
All of them? Even all bugs do? Okay, I didn't know that. Well, it's not like ours. I know that.
No, it's not like ours, but I mean, neither is octopus blood.
True. Interesting. Okay, so let's see here. All right, let's get into his journey. Back into his journey. He's talking about how dangerous it is. There's alligators and venomous serpents.
Where do you say alligators?
He says they're passed through a lake. This lake was filled with alligators, and its jungle borders where the home of the cheetah and the variety of venomous serpents are. Great ferns bent over its margins, and its surface was spotted with leaves and flowers of the lotus. He's very, you're right, he's very detailed.
This is all he has to do.
Yes. A path diverging from its southern side struck boldly for the heart of the forbidding and seemingly impenetrable forest. Henrik led the way along the path. I followed closely, and behind me, curious rabble of Makoto's men, women, and children. After we were fairly in the forest, a shade overhead was so dense that the jungle and undergrowth almost disappeared, and instead there was a damp, boggy turf, cold, spongy, and yielding to the tread. The stalks of the tall trees rose like columns, the vines hanging down from them in festoons, and their roots running over the ground in every direction, making walking difficult. Suddenly, the natives began to cry, "Tepi, tepi," and Hendrik, stopping short, said, "Look, the sluggish canal-like stream here wound slowly by, and in a bare spot near its bend was the most singular of trees. I have called it Crinoidea because when its leaves are in action, it bears a striking resemblance to that well-known fossil of the crinoid lilystone, or St. Cuthbert's beads." So this is the tree they found.
The primitive Venus flytrap. So it's the first, this giant leaf that would
close
shut before we had the flowering type heads of modern Venus flytraps.
He says, if you can imagine a pineapple 8 feet high and thick in proportion, resting upon its base, and denuded of leaves. I don't know. Oh, so no leaves. Gotcha. Okay. You will have a good idea of the trunk of the tree, which, however, was not the color of an anana, but I don't know what that means, but a dark, dingy brown, and apparently hard as iron. Ooh. From its apex of this truncated cone, at least 2 feet in diameter, 8 leaves hung sheer to the ground, like doors swung back on their hinges. These leaves were joined at the top of the tree at regular intervals, were about 11 or 12 feet long, and shaped very much like the leaves in an American agave.
So yeah, like the oh my gosh, agave.
Yeah. Agave
Aloe.
plant. Oh, aloe too?
The
Yeah.
aloe family.
Okay.
So imagine, like you said, the pineapple, the color. He's saying it's not yellow, is what that word means.
Oh, gotcha.
He's
Okay.
saying unlike a pineapple, it's not yellow. It's dark brown or black. And he has 11 of these leaves that hang off the top of it. So there's this, it opens, so basically there's no leaves. Imagine if all the leaves on top of the pineapple were all the way going down to the ground.
Draped over it, yeah. Gotcha. Like a pineapple with droopy leaves.
Yes.
There we go. Big.
Very rough, hard skin. But keep in mind, a lot of trees or heavy, thick plants in Africa and Madagascar have that kind of wood. Because they had to deal with megafauna for so long.
Like the baobab trees. Yeah. It says they were 2 feet through their thickest part and 3 feet wide. Is that the... the plant, I'm guessing. Tapering to a sharp point that looked like a cow's horn. Oh, okay, gotcha. Oh, 3 feet wide. 2 feet at their thick part, 3 feet wide. Okay, gotcha. Let's see here. Very convex on the outer, but now under the surface, and on the inner, now upper surface, slightly concave. This concave face was thickly set with very strong, thorny hooks. Ooh, like those upon the head of a teasel. What's the teasel?
I'm not sure.
Maybe another plant?
Yeah, it's another plant for sure.
These leaves hanging thus limp and lifeless, dead green in color, and in appearance the massive strength of oak fiber. The apex of the cone was round, white, concave figure, like the smaller plate set within a larger one. This was not a flower, but a receptacle, and there exuded into a clear, treacly liquid, honey sweet, and possessed of violent, intoxicating, and sporific properties.
So basically, it is a very sweet liquid being used as bait that can it gets you drunk.
Oh.
But that is not uncommon.
Oh, you're saying like modern plants have this too?
Yeah, we'll get into it. But yeah, so this is not, keep in mind, this is 1888 before we knew a lot of the predatory plants. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the liquids that predatory plants produce are either narcotic or hallucinogen, or they kind of get you in a drunk-like state, so you don't fight out the plant.
Aha.
I mean, they are just plants.
Right, exactly. They got to subdue you somehow.
They don't have muscles. It's more of a hydraulic press.
Gotcha.
So yeah, until they can spray you with acid, they need you to stop moving.
Right. Okay.
So, but this leaf looks like I've seen the drawings. It's hard to depict. Kind of imagine like the aloe plant's leaf leaning down. It has but the hooks curve in.
Yep.
And it's more like spooned than an aloe leaf. It actually has a cavity inside of it.
A concave, yeah.
So yeah, it's like a more rounded aloe leaf with harder hooks on the outside.
I like the spoon.
It's very spoon-like.
Yeah. From underneath the rim of the undermost plate, a series of long, hairy green tendrils stretched out in every direction towards the horizon. These were 7 or 8 feet long each and tapered from 4 inches to a half-inch in diameter, yet they stretched out stiffly as iron rods. Above these, from which the upper and under cup, 6 white, almost transparent palpi reared themselves towards the sky, which are like little, almost like spike things, right?
Palpi are a piece of a flower, so it's almost like the stamen. So it's the
gotcha.
Little stamens.
Yeah, on the inside of the flower.
So basically, saying out of the top of this thing has these white things coming out, and also so imagine the top of this tree-like structure. There's the hole, and then also these vines are coming out.
Gotcha.
So not just the leaves coming out of it, you have the palpi coming out of it, and these vines coming out of it.
And it said these palpi, they were towards the sky, twirling and twisting with a marvelous, incessant motion, yet constantly reaching upwards. Thin as reeds and frail as quills, apparently they were yet 5 or 6 feet tall, and were so constantly and vigorously in motion, with such a subtle, sinuous, silent throbbing against the air, that they made me shudder in spite of myself with their suggestion of serpents, flayed yet dancing on their tails. So like the little dancing snakes when they come out of the pot. So they're constantly just like...
It's probably the wind.
Wind moving them, but it's probably like an attractive thing too to pull in,
That is probably just for reproduction.
Oh, okay. Oh, to catch like spores and whatnot?
Yeah, no, for pollinators and stuff like that.
Okay, gotcha.
It probably has nothing to do with the carnivorous nature of this plant. We will soon learn about.
Okay. Here we're not corolla, pistil stamens, a flower, mind you, nor anything like it. For Corynordia unknown, new species as it is niest akin to the Saidae. Gosh, it's just like a cousin of it, I'm guessing.
It's not acting like a lot of its family members, if it is in the Venus flytrap family.
Gotcha, okay. And perhaps its exact prototype may be found among the fossil Cicadae, or Cicadae.
So basically, he's saying it doesn't belong to any of the living modern relatives.
And
maybe we can find it in the fossil record.
Yep, there you go. Though I confess, I do not remember oh gosh.
I know, it's very hard.
I know. I do not remember anyone that presents all of its particular features. So he's saying he don't remember any fossil that they found that has this.
Everything.
Yes. The description I am giving you now is partly made up from a subsequent careful inspection of the plant. My observations on this occasion were suddenly interrupted by the natives, who had been shrieking about the tree in their shrill voices and chanting what Henrik told me were proprietary hymns to the great tree devil. Ooh. With still wilder shrieks and chants, they now surrounded one of the women and urged her with the points of their javelins until slowly and with despairing face she climbed up the rough stalk of the tree and stood on the summit of the cone, the palpi twirling around her. Oh, I don't know what's about.
This is one of their people.
And it looks like they're forcing her to climb up there.
Well, kinda.
Kinda with pointy sticks as javelins? I would say yes. So they're saying tisk tisk, which means drink, drink, cried the men. And stooping, she drank the viscous fluid with a cup, rising instantly again with the wild frenzy in her face and convulsive chorea in her limbs.
She starts having a seizure.
But she did not jump down, as she seemed to intend to do so. Oh no, the atrocious cannibal tree that had been so inert and dead came to a sudden savage life. Oh gosh, the slender, delicate palpi with the furry, starved serpents, which is talking about them, quivered a moment over her head. Then, as if an instinct with demoniac intelligence. Ooh, I don't like that. Fastened upon her in sudden coils around and round her neck and arms. Then, while her awful screams and yet more awful laughter rose wilder to be instantly strangled down again into a gurgling moan, the tendrils, one after another, like great green serpents, with brutal energy and infernal rapidity, rose, retracted themselves, and wrapped around her in fold after fold, ever tightening, with the cruel swiftness and savage tenacity of the anacondas fastening upon her prey, or upon their prey. It was the barbarity of the Laocoon, without its beauty. This strange, horrible murder. Gosh. So I'll
recap.
Yes, please, because that was a lot and very brutal.
So basically, once the natives, he doesn't, our expedition guy, doesn't really understand why getting too close to this thing is bad. So the natives sacrifice people to these trees. But once they get too close, they pick a woman out of their group that they're walking along with this guy. And like, all right, get up there. It's you. And she does. And she drinks out of the top. She starts having slight convulsions. The palpi are the triggering mechanisms. Mm-hmm. So it kind of, I think the plant is either telling if it's a pollinator or a food source. Mm. So after she drinks this stuff, she kind of is getting high off it. That's where the laughing's coming from. The tendrils, the green tentacles, the green vines, shoot up and start wrapping around her tightly and tightly and tightly, basically choking her out.
Like an anaconda snake constricting.
Yeah. So then they just cocoon her, is what he's saying. She's enjoying the whole process because that's partially what the hallucinogenic liquid is doing.
I was going to say, yeah, she had to be very high to enjoy that. Because I can't imagine anyone being eaten to death by a plant is going to be enjoying or laughing about it. Oh my gosh. Okay, so now the great leaves rose slowly and stiffly, like the arms of
she is at top of the plant.
Yep.
She's standing on top where the hole is. So she's all wrapped up in these vines, vertically on top of this plant. Now the leaves are beginning to close over top of her. So even she breaks out of the vines, she can't go anywhere.
So they rose slowly and stiffly, erected themselves in the air, approached one another, and closed about the dead and hampered victim with the silent force of a hydraulic press and the ruthless purpose of the thumbscrew. A moment more, and while I could see the base of these great levers pressing more tightly towards one another, from their interstices...
The inside of them.
Yes. There trickled down the stalk of the tree great stems of the viscous honey-like fluid, mingled horribly with the blood and oozing viscera of the victim. Oh, gosh.
So basically, the plant is crushing her into putty for easier breakdown. They don't digest like we do.
Yeah, they're just mushing her into pulp.
Yep.
Gosh. At the sight of this, the savages' hordes around me, yelling madly, bounded forward, crowded to the tree, clasped it, and with cups, leaves, hands, and tongues, got each enough of the liquid to send him mad and frantic. So they were drinking of...
The mixing of the blood and the honey.
Oh, and they were getting like high off it, sounds like.
It's very addictive.
Oh my gosh.
So it's very good. The plant has a very good life strategy because they keep feeding it so they can get the addictive. They're addicted.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I'm going to read this next part there. Then ensued a grotesque and indescribably hideous orgy, from which even while its convulsive madness was turning rapidly into delirium and insensibility, Hendrik dragged me hurriedly away into the recesses of the forest, hiding me from the dangerous brutes and the brutes from me. So maybe these guys are savages and stuff. Oh, it keeps going.
Yeah, we're done.
So
that's it for the plant.
Oh my gosh. So it's like a ritual almost that these guys get a high off of. And
yeah, so the plant, there are other plants that produce this addictive chemicals. So even if prey escapes, they want to come back.
Yeah.
Some plants use it for pollination. So basically, she climbs all the way up, starts drinking the stuff. The pupae start feeling her up and decide this is a food item, not a pollinator. They pull down. The vines wrap around her, start squeezing super tight. They're not very strong, though.
Yeah.
So technically, if she wanted to, she could still get out, but she drank the fluid.
She's under the influence.
It's very ecstasy-like.
Yeah.
Everything's very enjoyable.
Yeah.
So she's not fighting
at all.
Ecstasy,
that's a good description.
Well, yeah. So she's not fighting at all. When they get to... So then the giant leaves of this thing start closing in real slow. Because like I said earlier, plants don't have muscles. It's more like a hydraulic liquid.
Yeah.
And they start intertwining and crushing. And they crush and crush and crush. And a byproduct of this is the blood and some of this honey substance is leaking out of the plant.
And just dripping down the side of it.
The rest of the tribe then gets to drink the mix of blood and honey. And it's like an aphrodisiac.
Yeah.
It's partially hallucinogenic. It's partially... It's a very weird compound.
So tying back to the beginning of like his description of this tribe, he said they didn't have any like religious structure. They didn't have any community structure really that much. Everything seemed to be based around this one plant, which now makes a lot more sense because if you live your life getting this high,
they're a tribe of addicts.
Yeah, and exactly, and that's what it seems like it's based off of, and it's so brutal. But if you're addicted to it, it's second nature to them. It's just they're just going to do it. And they're sacrificing each other just to do it, just to get high off of it.
And it seemed like it was almost accidental, like they don't remember where the trees are. Because they weren't showing this guy where the tree was. They were just kind of walking through the territory
And they found it?
and found it.
Yeah.
And then they all started freaking out.
Yeah, like, oh, there's one. There's another one.
And they may not remember where they are
Yeah.
after the event.
True, yeah. True, because they just are, like, enjoying the moment. Oh, my gosh, that's crazy. I would have ran away, too. Let's get the heck out of here, like he did. Oh, my gosh.
It's a very unique plant. So there's a lot more to it. Mm-hmm. I want to get one of the other ones in before this episode time runs out.
Yeah.
But there's been expeditions for it. A couple other people have had encounters with it. Mm-hmm. It seems to be very real, or it was very real.
Right, yeah.
I think they're extinct now, or at least if there are some left, they are in the remote parts of Madagascar, which still exist.
And probably very protected, like by the people.
Oh, that tribe is gone.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't make it till the 21st century.
Okay. I bet there's like still some hiding in caves somewhere.
I don't think so, because that valley is now inhabited by modern people.
Oh, okay. Well, then, yeah, they're definitely gone.
Yeah, they didn't make it, because they did have a tendency for being very violent.
Yeah, now I understand why.
So once people with guns showed up,
my mind's just blown right now. I'm not
once semi-automatic weapons showed up to Madagascar.
Yeah.
These really aggressive tribes did not make it very long.
Well, their pointy sticks didn't really do much to the.
Because now they have the reputation of shooting poisonous arrows and stuff like that, and they do have that undeserved reputation of being cannibals, kinda, because they are drinking the blood of this lady.
Yeah, they are. I mean, that is cannibalism.
But they're addicts.
Oh yeah, for sure, 100%, 100%. Their whole lifestyles revolves around being basically an addict at that point.
So I'm skipping our middle one. It was the vampire vines of Mexico. We'll do another episode with Cryptobotany.
Okay, yeah, because that one was a long one, but through my rough reading of it, translation of that whole article, that was very entertaining.
But they've looked for it several times. Other people have found it.
Yeah,
it seemed to be very real.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, I believe it,
and it has a lot of biological sense.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a mix of both the sundew, which has a very sweet, slightly medicinal liquid all over it, but it's very sticky. And the sundew curls its giant leaves back up into it whenever it gets prey.
Okay.
In a mix of a Venus flytrap.
Yeah.
And a pitcher plant, because the pitcher plant, the base seems more like pitcher plant, like to where the fluid is being collected.
Okay.
So after the leaves are crushing whatever prey item got into it.
Yeah.
Then the fluid is being collected in there for digestion.
And that's what that makes just like this, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It does make biological sense.
Oh, yeah, and it's very descriptive. Like, he went...
So before we move on to our last guy for this episode, do you think it's real?
Yes.
Do you think it's pretty accurately described?
Yes.
I do too.
Yeah.
I think at least it's probably extinct now. Mm-hmm. I think we'd have found it by now if it was into modern times, because there are tons of biological teams working in Madagascar. Because the country does have its pitfalls, but it's not like the Congo.
Gotcha.
A bunch of white biologists can go there and relatively not be murdered.
Right.
I mean, they filmed Top Gear there like 6 times now.
Yeah.
So it's not like the country is very pretty.
Oh yeah.
It's very modernized now. I believe is it the French that run Madagascar?
I don't know.
It's got a big brother. One of the main countries of the world has it under like a territory.
Yeah,
it is its own country, but there is one of the countries, I can't remember which one it is, has I think it's France.
Yeah, just about every country now has a big brother. Mm-hmm. If you're not one of the big brothers.
You pretty much need it in modern day.
You don't, wow, what do you mean need it?
Madagascar probably wouldn't fare too well without having somebody's navy looking out for them.
I guess so, yeah.
I mean, Somalia is right across that little strip of the ocean.
True. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, we have mixed. There's good and bad.
Yeah, I'm not saying there's not bad.
Yeah, but
anyway, where they are in the world, they need a big brother.
Right, I get it. All right, so what's the next one we're gonna go? Where are we gonna go for this one?
West Virginia.
No, Appalachia. Mm-hmm. Our backyard. All right. Mm-hmm.
What if? So we've talked about one that has normal plant locomotion. Hydraulic leaf movement, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Biologically, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But what if plants were a little more animate? As in, they could walk, they could move around. What if they could even talk?
Like Groot?
Like Groot.
Yeah, okay.
What was Groot? Bioflorius giganteus.
Oh, I don't know.
That was his scientific name.
Oh, okay. I just seen the previews.
We're going to do a short version of the West Virginia Veggie Man.
Ooh, Veggie Man. Okay.
And he will be a full episode one time because he does have a pretty big story with him.
Okay.
We're going to do the watered-down version for this.
Okay.
West Virginia has played a host to an extraordinary number of unusual creatures. They range from the widely known Mothman of Point Pleasant to the Flatwoods monster of Braxton County. Few people, however, even within the state itself, have heard of the strange case of the West Virginia's Veggie Man. Bum, bum, bum. So the West Virginia Veggie Man is said to be very tall, arguably over 7 feet tall, thin with semi-human shape, and that's rough.
Yeah.
Humanoid,
yeah, bipedal, I'm guessing.
It has also appeared to be potentially just plant-based, with possessing large ear-like structures, striking eyes, with oscillating colors. So it's almost like hypnotic eyes. Like, you remember Jungle Book? How the snake's eyes would change colors? It's like that, but real life.
Okay.
Mostly going from red to yellow rapidly. Its arms were thin and gave the impression of reeds on a riverbank. The ends of its long fingers had suction cup-like things that had thorns protruding from within the suction cups. Very octopus squid-like.
Mm-hmm.
The sightings. In 1968, once again, this is, the 60s in West Virginia was a
crazy time.
Scary place to live.
Yeah, or interesting.
Scary. 1968, in the woods around Fairmont, West Virginia, Jennings Frederick was out on the hunt. As he moved through the woods in search of game, Fredericks heard an odd noise. It sounded like a recorded player running faster than it should. So like a record player.
Okay.
Being on like the fast.
Yeah, setting.
It was sort of high pitched garbling. So kind of like how some people say the Mothman talked.
Oh, okay.
When he tracked down to the source of the sound, he came face to face with a strange creature. Fredericks would go on to say the being looked weakened, sickly, and jabbering incessantly. So basically, it looks weak, it looks sick. It's blah, 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 blah. Suddenly, he could make out the words. Yeah, and he hints later on at telepathic communication. So here's what the vegetable man says to Frederickson. You need not fear me. I wish to communicate. I come as a friend. We know of you well, or we know of you all. I come in peace. I wish medical assistance. Will you please help me?
Oh, wow.
With that, the creature lunged at him and wrapped Frederick up in its surprisingly strong arms. Frederick was unable to break away from the embrace of this creature, piercing his skin with the thorns on its fingertips. While it drained blood from him, Frederick found himself enthralled by the flashing colors of the creature's eyes, almost like he was hypnotized. Then, almost as quickly as it pounced, the Veggie Man raced away up the hill. Frederick then claimed to hear a deep humming from the other side of the hill. He surmised the creature that might have the sounds of the creature's ship taking off. Implies that he felt that the monster was extraterrestrial in origin. That's a side note. So this creature's like, will you basically telepathically, please help me. We know of your kind. I need medical assistance. And then it jumps on him, and drinks some blood,
and takes off.
Yeah.
In this time period in West Virginia, I wonder what was going on. It kind of seems like either we did open a portal to other dimensions and these creatures are coming through, or we were doing like human genome experiments where we're mixing human DNA with like other stuff, or it might not be us. What if it's like interdimensional creatures that are making their way into our world, and now the only way to integrate is to get more of our DNA or stuff to be more flesh and blood in this world.
So I included him in Cryptobotany because I think he may not be from another world.
You think it's here?
I think he may be some form of sentient plant.
Really? See, well, you're kind of right, yes, but I think it's almost like human being spliced with plant DNA, and then this abomination was created. I
think he was a plant creature. So, yeah, once again, this is the only sighting of this creature ever.
Okay. A one-off.
Yeah, one-off. West Virginia's famous for him. I just think he may be one of what we used to consider, oh gosh, I just forgot the word for living trees, walking trees, unts.
Unts.
There was a bunch of old legends of these tall tree-like creatures that would walk around real slow, that were peaceful by nature and would only defend themselves.
Yeah.
He could need the blood for iron and stuff like that. He may have been actually weak. And he took off because he's like, well, Fredericks is not going to understand why I just did this.
Yeah.
No matter what
Clearly.
I say after this.
It's also giving me like Sam Sundown Clown vibes. Like
Wow.
the telepathic kind of communication. The hands and arms and legs obviously being made of wood.
Well, this one is definitely more flexible plant. It's like almost like snakes because he wrapped around him with him. Sam couldn't move his arms or legs.
Okay. But still, I mean, similar, like, hey, I mean you no harm. Like, kind of the same message. And then, I don't know. That seems kind of harmful, whatever it did. Maybe it didn't mean him harm, but it needed something from him.
Well, yeah, so see, it did not take a lot of blood.
It just needed something.
Yeah, just a little bit.
See, I think that's demon stuff.
It could be. I mean, it could be.
It needs human
But I
blood.
included him in this because he seems very botany.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So I think, this is all these plants, like we didn't get into it today, but the snare vines of Mexico,
Yeah.
they specifically drink blood. All these vines drink blood.
Okay. But this one's walking around. This one's moving. I don't know.
It could be one of the few of the last of what we used to think of forest spirits.
Yeah,
Plants.
that too, yeah. Forest spirits. Like, I didn't even mention that yet. Like, it could be a manifestation of one of the spirits that took this form.
I'm just saying that we called them forest spirits, that they are actual biological beings.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
They're just made of plant.
Yeah. But nothing is out of the realm of possibility.
No. You went straight to interdimensional, though.
I did, for sure, but I think that's a possibility.
Oh, it definitely is. I mean, all these weird guys.
Yeah.
Or out of time.
Or that too, yeah.
They could have been they could have been the dominant species during the Triassic when dinosaurs were walking around because dinosaurs didn't eat them.
And we still don't know how old some of this stuff is or how recent some of this stuff even is,
A cave creature.
Could be, yeah.
It's been a while since we did a good old-fashioned cave creature.
That's always cave creatures. Everything's a cave creature.
But, so going back, so Cryptobotany, there's not as many as cryptids. I mean, really, there's never going to be as many as cryptids.
Right.
Because plants are much more easily discovered. Not saying that they don't have as wild of biology as animals and fungi do.
Right.
But they just, like I said, most plants are pretty much stuck.
I'll just say they're more
they are.
more limited.
Yeah. So they can't run away. They can't hide from you. They can't play this cat and mouse game as easily
Right.
as, a cryptid can, an animal can, or a fungi can. Fungi are almost all exclusively underground. So it's a hard species to study because we're basically judging it off the fruiting body.
Right, yeah.
But cryptobotany is a very unique field with many species in it that are weird. There's fire-breathing plants. There's living pitfalls.
Yep.
Which we'll get into on more additions to this cryptobotany. But I just thought it would be really fun to do a first kind of intro to it.
Oh, this is a great intro to this.
There's even a giant living cannibal corn.
Oh, we need that. That could be our new mascot. Oh, that would be a good one. Now, does this in relation to Chuck Tingle?
No.
Okay, good.
But no, the devil tree is definitely probably the big guy. That is the Bigfoot of cryptobotany.
Gotcha. From Madagascar. Yeah, that was that's good.
And the story goes on. I should have gave a warning about the orgy thing.
Yeah, I wasn't ready for that. But, I mean, it adds an important part to the puzzle, too.
They're definitely addicts to whatever that thing is.
Yeah, and I think you're right about, like, an ecstasy type
It's definitely
feeling.
Yeah, it's definitely something touchy-feely because the lady was being crushed to death and enjoying it.
Enjoying it, yeah. I mean, I've never done ecstasy, but I've heard stories, and that seemed fit those descriptions very well. Like a natural version of that, maybe. I don't know. That's crazy, though. But it's not out of the realm of possibility at all in my mind.
No.
These living plants.
Stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, just this living plant in general. I mean, you got Venus flytraps, nowadays.
Sundews.
You got
Pitcher
sundews,
plants.
yeah. So who's to say,
Cannibal flowers.
Yeah. I mean, this stuff could have been way more prevalent, at the time wherever, like he was mentioned, this branch of species or type of plant got its footing in the world, wherever it came from. They don't know, but obviously it was here. It could have been worldwide. It could have been spread out, and there could have been a lot more of them.
These things are probably mostly eating lemurs.
Oh, yeah. And like when, cataclysms happen, food sources change, that can wipe out entire plant species that feed off certain food sources like this, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And they're just gone. What are you going to do? They're not going to regrow back like all of our, more hardier plants and fauna we got. Is that the right word? Mm-hmm. Flora. Yeah, flora. That come back. You just drop a seed somewhere and it can be stored in forever and until it's reanimated. I don't feel like these carnivorous ones aren't quite like that. Question, maybe how do Venus flytraps like reproduce?
Seeds.
Just like seeds? Mm-hmm. Okay. I never seen a Venus flytrap seed. Where's this?
It's not very common. They do produce a flower.
They do? Okay.
They
never seen it.
their mouths for it.
See, never seen it.
Mm-hmm. It's not you don't see it in captivity.
So, okay. See, like stuff like it's probably a lot harder for them to.
I think almost all of them produce.
Well, they'd have to somehow,
flowers.
Right?
I'm trying to think. Sundews produce a flower. I think pitcher plants produce a really cool flower.
I'm not familiar with at all. I gotta up my.
Carnivorous flowers are a flower.
Yeah. I mean, it's in the name.
And sometimes they eat them, sometimes they don't.
Interesting. Yeah, I gotta dig more into the carnivorous plants now.
There's a lot of them. So this was a good first taste. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I think this will probably be a Patreon episode for a while. This may be a later release.
Yeah.
On the main page, just due to the word orgy that we're going to keep adding.
Well, that's okay. I don't think ain't nothing bad. I mean, yeah, there's something bad, but it's not a bad word.
A woman was crushed to death, and then they had orgy with their blood juice.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's bad. We'll just graphic warning. We'll put a graphic warning in the description.
All right. I have been the great and powerful mystery.
And I've been Ed. What was it?
Edmund
J.
Edmund J. Together with Cryptids of the Corn podcast. Thank you for this thorny episode. All right. Catch you later, guys.
You've been listening to Cryptids of the Corn. Be sure to join us in the next episode where we tantalize your intellect and expand the horizons of your mind. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show, and we really appreciate it. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Until then, stay magical.